Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about your first designer handbag. So these are my top 5 tips in picking your first designer handbag. And at the end of the video I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of actual bags themselves that would be a good first bag pick. So if you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. My name's Katherine and my channel is KWSHOPS. And I work in resale among other things, and I mainly focus my channel on shopping tips as well as the pre-loved luxury handbag market. And my channel is all about shopping tips on how to save money on your splurges, because there's a ton of great stuff out there that you don't have to break the bank necessarily to get. If that's interesting to you, then please hit the subscribe button down below as well as the bell icon next to it so you can be notified when my videos go live, which is supposed to be once a week. I have been a little bit scatterbrained lately. As you can see, I'm still not at home, yeah. So before I get started with my tips, I'm going to share with you my first 2 designer bags. The first one was a gift. It was the Louis Vuitton Speedy 30 in the classic style, and the first one that I actually bought for myself with my own money was the Louis Vuitton Belmont. The Belmont, I actually reviewed the Louis Vuitton Belmont in my first video on YouTube that I will link up here. If you do not already have a designer bag, then please comment down below and tell me what you're thinking of getting. I would love to have some conversation started down there, and if you do already have a collection started, then please tell me in the comments down below what was your first. So my first tip in picking your very first designer handbag is to not settle. You only get one chance at having your first bag. While they all will be very special to you, there's nothing like your first. When you're shopping in the store, it does get very tempting especially when you are being helped by a sales associate, to just pick from what they have available. I would say that this goes for any luxury purchase you make, to not settle for whatever they have available, to wait it out, to have them assist you in finding the bag or the color or the size that you actually do want. And this goes especially if you're getting your first bag pre-loved. I'll get into more details on that later in the video. Just wait it out. Another one will come your way. The pre-love market and the handbag market is ever expansive. There's always something else that is going to be listed, and you will eventually end up with the bag of your dreams. You just have to be patient, unfortunately. You only get one chance at first bag, and make it special, make it count. So my second tip is to examine your current collection of bags. Obviously, if you are looking at getting a first designer bag, then you may not have other designer bags to compare with, but just really look at your collection of handbags and just make a list maybe of all the things in your collection that you like versus all the things that you don't like. So which of your current bags do you like the most and why? Which of them that you currently have do you like the least and why? Let's say, for example, you really love a certain crossbody bag, maybe look into a couple crossbodies. If you have a shoulder tote and it's maybe a little bit too heavy on your arm or too heavy on your shoulder, then maybe skip those for the time being. It would be good to just sort of see like what your style is, as well as what fits in with your lifestyle. Take into account what you have to carry every day, where you're going, and other things like weather conditions in the area where you live, as well as like if you're going to need the bag to be outside, or if this is something that you really will be able to just sit next to you on your desk and it's not going to have to interact with the elements. All those things are really important in choosing bags, choosing sizes, and choosing materials in your future purchases. My next tip is to go with classic brands and brands that tend to not go on sale. These are brands that generally will retain their value, and usually the reason for that is because they are classics. So great first bag brands for me, I think Louis Vuitton is my very top one. I think that generally speaking, even though at the moment they seem to be moving away from this, they do have a couple of good starter pieces that are, you know, reasonable, if you can call them that, because they are still luxury. Gucci and YSL are also good brands to look into. Certain bags from both Gucci and YSL tend to make more classic styles that will, you know, maintain the relevance. Chanel, I think Chanel is a great brand, and I think it's definitely something that every handbag lover needs in their collection. However, I think that as a first designer bag, the price points may be a bit too high to, you know, just dip your toe in, unless currently the Chanel Wallet Unchained, which was always thought of as the starter Chanel bag, is now $2,500. So I mean, if your budget allows for that, then by all means, I think it's a great piece to start with. But for your first purchase, I would look into something maybe a bit less, just to, you know, get comfortable with spending the amount that you're spending on a handbag. That leads me into classic colors and classic styles. A huge mistake that newbies and first timers in the luxury game make is by finding something that just happens to be on sale. Generally speaking, with handbag brands, the type of bags that tend to go on sale with most brands, obviously there are going to be exceptions to this rule, but they'll be in the, you know, weird, odd seasonal colors. They'll have sequins and feathers and embellishments and all kinds of crazy stuff, and then will be marked down to 40, 50, and sometimes more than that % off at the end of the season. I would avoid bags like this. I would stick to classic styles, classic colors. Working in resale, I do encounter all kinds of people who will want to sell me their very first, the first bag that they purchased, and it will be like an orange beaded, like little mini box clutch or something like that. And first of all, bags like that don't tend to hold their value. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, my first bag, and, you know, most of my other bags, I want to be able to keep in my collection forever. And I also don't like to have bags just sitting there taking up space. I'm all for holding on to things for sentimental value, but I think practical value is something that is also really important. So I would pick something that is more practical that you can also attach the sentimental value to. I think that's best of both worlds, so that way you can still use it and it will still be relevant to your wardrobe in years to come. And my last tip is not one that's going to necessarily be not necessarily work for everyone, and for me, I would stay away from your first bag being an everyday piece. The reason I say that is because I was not always into handbags. Obviously I am now, and I've gone a little crazy over the last couple of years, but I more so was into shoes coming up. I've always loved fashion, but shoes were really my passion, and they were my favorite things to buy. And handbags were just sort of an afterthought to me, so I didn't always treat my bags very well until I actually got some really nice high quality designer ones. So I'm glad that when I picked out my Belmont, for me, the Louis Vuitton Belmont was not intended for me to be an everyday bag. It was intended to be something a bit dressier that I would take out for, I guess, more special occasions. I mean, it definitely isn't a night out bag by any means. I ended up treating it better, and it still looks fantastic as a result. I fear that if I would have gone for, you know, an everyday tote like I've since added in the Estrella MM that I revealed on my channel a couple of videos ago, then it would be beaten to hell and back. So what I do recommend, instead of getting an quote everyday bag, getting something that's a bit dressier that you do take out on more special occasions. Now, by no means am I saying to get, you know, an actual evening bag if that's not what your lifestyle will permit. It just isn't something that's going to be thrown around necessarily. I think your throw around everyday beater bag, I think that's great. It's a second bag, but your first one, for me at least, I like that my first one is like in near mint pristine condition, even though it's something that I do use a lot. Okay, and now for most of these picks, especially including this one, they are something that's dressy, but they can be dressed day or night. They can be dressed up or dressed down, so I think they're a bit more versatile. And versatility is something that's super important to me when it comes to handbags, especially when it comes to your first one. If you get something that's more versatile, that is classic, and that isn't something that you're going to lug around every day, not only is it you're going to be able to wear it more, you're going to be able to wear it longer, and the condition is more than likely going to be better as time goes by. So the first one I love is the I don't know if it's called the YSL Kate bag or something similar to that. This is something that generally speaking is either the chevron pattern or just plain leather with the YSL monogram attached on the outside. They also make one with the tassel, and that one I would just skip just because the one without the tassel is less money. But something like that in the wallet on chain style or the actual small handbag. The next two are from Louis Vuitton. The first one is the Speedy B30 or the size 25. I prefer the 30 just because the 25 for me, the opening didn't work out for me in my lifestyle. But the Speedy B25 is a great everyday bag for every day. The 30 size, generally speaking, is a size that works for anyone in any body shape and any body frame. I recommend going for this one in the Damier Ebene, just simply because you don't have to worry about the leather getting a patina over time or water spots or anything like that. The monogram also is a classic, and if you're going for your first designer bag, if you are into logos, then you may love that instead. But I do think that the Speedy Bandouliere is a great first bag. I would definitely suggest getting the Bandouliere style because you can always remove the strap if it's not to your liking. I personally don't love the look of adding a supplemental strap onto the classic, but that's just me. I think it definitely, there's a price difference of a couple $100s between the classic and the Bandouliere, and me personally, I think it's worth it to spend the extra to be able to have that versatility. Okay, so the next one is one, unfortunately, that is a little bit difficult to get your hands on at the moment of when I'm filming this. So this is the Favorite MM. This is what it looks like right here. I love everything about this bag. It's one that I'm considering adding to my collection, but I just sort of feel like at this point I don't really need it. The price point in the store is about, I want to say $1,030 or $1,050, somewhere in there. I'll link it. All of these obviously will be linked down below, but currently they're selling slightly above retail because they're just so difficult to acquire. I am not into buying above retail, but just since this is just a very classic bag that most people seem to really, really love, I think the size is great, and I think the fact that it goes crossbody and the strap is removable, you can add a different strap to it, you can carry it as a clutch, it goes from day to night perfectly. There's plenty of reviews about this bag. People really love it. It's called the Favorite for a reason because it's a lot of people's very favorite bag. So the Favorite MM, again, I recommend the Damier Ebene just because it will go from day to night easier, so in that sense it's a bit more versatile. I love that bag. I think that is such a great bag, and the price point in the store, if you can find it, is one that you really can't miss. And as far as getting a Louis Vuitton Neverfull as your first bag, as I mentioned earlier, I think that is a better buy as a second bag because it's, once you've gotten over the hurdle of having like your very first expensive bag, all of the ones after that are not necessarily as like precious about them. So you just sort of get used to it. I think the Louis Vuitton Neverfull is a great second bag, not necessarily a first. The next two are from Gucci, and I'm talking about the Gucci Soho Disco bag as well as the Gucci Marmont. Both of the Marmont is sort of, in my opinion, modeled after the classic Chanel. I mean, obviously you can see the similarities. Even though a lot of people will say that this is more of a trend piece, I think that the fact if you were to get it in a more neutral color, something like this will be relevant for many, many years to come. It's nothing. Gucci didn't exactly reinvent the wheel with this design, so it's something that I think that you will be able to carry and not look dated for a very, very long time. And as well, the Gucci Soho Disco bag, I think this one retails at about $1,200. That one is just a great, very practical, great for every day, but it also, you are able to dress it up a bit more. The Gucci Marmont, I think my pick for a first bag, I mean, obviously this depends on your lifestyle, but I would go for the mini or the small. I've tried both on in the store, and I just think that depending on how much you have to carry in a day, the mini and small size will work from day to night a bit easier than some of the larger ones will, but once again, that depends on what you need for your lifestyle. And next I'm going to mention a couple of bags from the pre-loved market that have been discontinued from the store. It is very important to remember when you are shopping pre-loved, especially if you are new to luxury, to shop from reputable sellers. I will leave links to a couple of reputable sellers that I personally used down below in the description box. But these are a couple that I do have in my collection. The first one is the Louis Vuitton St. Cloud. I bought mine vintage. Mine is from my actual birth year, so that's really cool. But I have mine in the GM size, and it's a really great everyday bag for me. They also make it in an MM and a PM size that are, in my opinion, I think this bag is a bit more casual, so it doesn't dress up the same way that a couple of the others do, like the Favorite, for example. But I do think that it is a great bag to add to your collection, and is something that would be a great first bag. The next one is the Pochette Twin. Again, I would go for the larger size in this bag as well. This one came out in monogram only, if I'm not mistaken. And also the price point on these is fantastic. I've seen these for as low as like $300 on the pre-loved market. This is a bag that came out in the early 2000s, and there's just a lot of great deals to be had on this bag. It does come in a smaller size, but just for the sake of having the bag, I would just opt for the larger size. There really isn't that much difference, but you are able to hold a bit more inside of it. The next one is one that I mentioned earlier, and that is the Louis Vuitton Belmont. That was the first one that I bought for myself, and the reason why was because I needed something that I could carry to let's say like important meetings, and it was great for travel for me. It was a bit dressier, but I was still able to use it to carry a lot of stuff with me. The fact that it was top handle just sort of made it so that I treated it better, as I mentioned earlier in the video. That's not one that I can really just throw around the same way I can do with others. I definitely have bags sort of for that purpose, even though I treat my bags much better than I used to. But the Belmont for me was something that was a bit dressier, and I'm very proud of my, pick for my first one. Also, Gucci has a number of wallet on chain styles. I used to have one. I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting the one that I previously had, which was the Dionysus chain wallet, but they have redesigned a couple of their chain wallets to be a bit more practical and able to hold more things inside of them. There's one with a magnetic closure that I saw recently. It is on the smaller side, so it wouldn't necessarily work during the daytime if you have to carry a lot of things, but it's definitely one to look out for. Just generally speaking, I think Louis Vuitton is sort of the one to go for first. I just think that the canvas lasts forever, and the canvas is really durable, and it tends to last really, really well. There's just a number of different picks outside of just a Speedy and a NEVERFULL. There's really a lot to be had, and especially if you go through the pre-love market on certain bags, not others unfortunately, you can actually end up saving a bunch of money. So do check the links down below in the description box. I will have all of the bags that I mentioned, as well as hopefully a few others that I find as I'm perusing, because that's what I love to do. And as far as SLGs go, I know a lot of people have said make your first designer piece something small like an SLG, but me personally, I didn't understand the reasoning behind the designer SLGs until I actually had a bag to put them in. So those, again, I would sort of wait on because there's always time to do that. Is something, if you do prefer to prefer something around the 200 mark, honestly, I would say spend an extra 100 and get the Louis Vuitton Pochette Twin. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Yes, so that is everything for this video. As I mentioned, everything that I talked about today will be linked in the description box down below, as well as a couple of videos that maybe will help you along your way of picking your bag. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!